Welcome to today's webinar brought to you by the Canadian Professional Sales Association and course facilitator Kerri Corturillo, sales coach and managing partner at Results by Design Consultants Incorporated. Today's webinar is called Sales Coaching Through Crisis, Maintaining Relationships and Business Continuity in Times of Uncertainty. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting all of us personally and professionally. It is fundamentally changing the way we as sales professionals work, as well as the level and type of support our sales teams, clients, and peers need from us. Today, Kerri will discuss how to focus on current clients from a place of support, keep building and maintaining a healthy pipeline while being sensitive to the current sales climate, and how to take care of yourself and your sales team during times of uncertainty like this. Kerri Corturillo, CSL, is an experienced instructor, sales coach, and CPSA facilitator. She has spent over 20 years working in business-to-business sales and sales leadership roles. Kerri has led large-scale sales development initiatives to transform sales cultures, which have improved customer experience and sales achievement. Her experience includes management training, organizational development, product management, and human capital management consulting. Kerri holds a Master of Adult Education and also maintains her Ontario Certified Teaching designation. Kerri has earned her Certified Sales Leader designation from the CPSA. Please note that all of today's attendees have been placed on mute for the duration of the webinar and that you may ask questions at the end using the question function in your GoToWebinar dashboard. Now, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Kerri to start.
Great, thank you so much, and welcome everybody to the session. What a critical topic at such a critical time for all of us. So I really want to hopefully provide some key insights into how, as a sales professional, how can you, really kind of leverage the time you have today and have the time you have during this pandemic to really ensure that you are doing the right things for your clients, for your business, and also very importantly for yourself. As we said, my name is Kerri Corturillo. Really happy to be with you today. My company is RBD Consultants, Results by Design. So we are an organization that really focuses on helping sales teams to transform the way they do business. I truly believe that a focus on customers is the way that we as sales professional need to act on every single day. And what does that focus on customers look like? How do we, prepare so that we are talking the same language as our clients? What research do we do? What homework have we done? And how do we position ourselves with really keeping that focus in mind? So that's kind of what I'm all about. And as we go through this session, I think that hopefully will come out loud and clear. So for today, a couple of topics that we want to cover. One is, how are you focusing on your current clients today? What does that look like now versus what this was like before COVID-19 and what it potentially could be like in the next several months? So what are some of the things that you can do to really demonstrate your support for your clients and really show them that that focus is really critical? Also want to look at prospecting. Many of you are still prospecting today. So that may be a little bit different in terms of the language that you use and the focus that you take. So let's talk about some of those prospecting best practices that really apply in today's situation. And then we need to be able to look to the future. So how are we planning? How are we actually evaluating our goals, our objectives? How are we putting together account and industry strategies that are going to help us now and help us build on the future? And then certainly, what are you doing to take care of yourself? So that is absolutely a critical component of making sure that you as a sales professional are productive and can really make sure that you not only take care of your clients, but take care of you as well. So moving into the topic, let's look at how are we focusing on our current clients. So first and foremost, how are you building up goodwill? What are you doing to perhaps provide support to clients, in particular ones that need it the most? And I know in speaking with many of my clients and the sales reps that I work with, there are a few things that we can do to really show and demonstrate our support for our clients today. And that may be as simple as extending contract agreements, extending renewals, providing extended payment terms if you can, to really help your clients kind of go through sort of this period of time, especially when they're not quite sure what's going to happen at the end of this couple of months, or what that expression of what that new normal will look like. So really think about, what is that goodwill? Many of my clients are providing industry level sessions like this, right? Webinars, industry discussions, to really keep their clients up to date on some of the things that are happening within their market or within their industry as a whole. If they can provide that level of expertise, it's another way that they can show their support to their clients during this time. So really think about, how are you building up that goodwill? What are you doing to support your clients and your prospects during this kind of period of time now that we find ourselves in? And then what does that look like from how are you reaching out specifically? How are you supporting your client contacts? What does that support look like? Many of the reps that I'm working with are hesitant right now to call their clients. They feel like this is going to be some type of intrusion. And I want to say, I fully believe that can't be further from the truth. I think your clients right now need to know that you are there for them. They need to know that as a business, here's what we're doing to support you, to enable you to continue to do business if possible, or here's what we're doing to support you in this transition period, and how can we help you get back to business later on. So really, as you are calling your clients now, as you're checking in with them, really important to check in, ask them, how can we stay connected during this period of uncertainty? Do we want to schedule some regular check-ins between yourself? Do you want to do that between yourself and your client contacts? That may be a great way to make sure that you both have buy-in on what that communication is going to look like. So, again, work with them, schedule those regular check-ins, and figure out what it is that you're going to check in about. Don't forget about the human aspect of this, right? Like, check in with your client as a person. How are they doing? What's going on in their life? How are they able to cope with all of this? In addition to checking in on the business issues that are really critical. So be there as a support. Don't feel like your calls are intrusions. Make sure you really provide value to your clients during this time, and make sure that you guys are in agreement, right? So your client and you are agreeing on what those next communication steps should look like. And remember, a call really does go a long way. Many of my clients are reaching out by email. If that's an acceptable way to connect with your clients, great. But if you're going to get lost in a lot of that email noise that happens, then really think about, how can I differentiate myself? And what's the best way for me to do that moving forward? So again, work with your client base, figure out what's going to work for them. And every client will be different. So that communication strategy will look very different for one client than it will for another. And that's okay. So work with them to build that individualized strategy that will help them during this time. And remember to be positive, and certainly be sensitive to what's going on within your client's world. If you've called them, left a message, and they don't get back to you in a couple of days, remember what else is going on for them, right? We're dealing with family issues. We've got kids home, going through school in the home today. We've got spouses or partners also working from home virtually. They're caring for older parents potentially. It takes, twice as long to buy groceries these days. So there's a lot going on for your clients, not just on a professional level, but on a personal level. So give them, a little bit of extra time and space to get back to you. So be sensitive to what they're going through as well. And then certainly be informed. And that really means do your homework. So really think about and research what is happening within my client's industry today. Right? What is the key outcome or impact that COVID-19 has had? And speaking with my clients, what I'm finding is that a lot of sales reps right now are operating at one extreme or the other. Either they are in a little bit of a holding pattern, clients aren't buying, clients aren't necessarily communicating on a regular basis, or their clients aren't even working because of the business they're in. They might be in a shutdown. They might be on working virtually and only being, as half as productive as they could be. So the sales reps are in a little bit of a holding pattern. They feel like they want to reach out, but they are not quite sure who to reach out to, or when, or how much, right? Because of sort of that situation they're in. That's one extreme. The other extreme is I have clients that I work with who are incredibly busy. They're dealing with clients who have ever-changing issues day by day. In the financial services industry, where they are constantly trying to keep up with how to provide services to small businesses. What does that look like? What is some of the government regulatory changes that are happening? How does that impact their clients, and how can they help? I have clients that work in health and safety, as an example, that are really working overtime to get products to their clients, to healthcare workers, to those who critically need them. So it feels like, as sales professionals, we're operating in one of those extremes and not so much in the middle. So really think about, where are you operating from and where are your clients operating from? So be informed about what's going on in their industry, in their market, within their business, and really make sure that when you are connecting with them, you keep that in mind, so that when you do call to offer your support, you have context for that support, right? You can speak to what you've heard in the news. You can speak to the research that you've done about their industry and be able to make those connections. So really think about that, because that really demonstrates your support, is the knowledge you have about your client's industry. So think about, as you are building out your own communication plan with your clients, what can you do to focus on your current clients right now? Is there some bigger kind of initiatives that are currently in place within your business? Or is there some smaller things you can do specifically with your contacts to help to demonstrate that support? A bigger initiative could be changing your product line. I have a client who is in the marketing industry, and what they do is they actually develop the booths for trade shows. Not a lot of trade shows happening right now, so they've retooled. They looked at how they can take the technology and the manufacturing that they do today and change that into creating booths for COVID-19 testing. They've created the plastic shields that you see now in grocery stores as you walk in, and their clients that are retailers, they've offered a lot of those products to them to help them as they continue to look at how they can keep some of their stores open and what that would look like. That could be a big initiative, right? But think about some of the smaller incremental things you can do to demonstrate your support. It may be things like extending contracts, as I said, looking at how you can extend payment terms for your clients. Or it could be looking at how can you get your capabilities, your services to your clients in a new and different way. We've seen many organizations move from in-person to virtual types of environments, whether that's learning, training, being able to conduct meetings, focus groups virtually. So think about how you can take what you do normally and how can you actually make that fit today, so that you're providing value and support for your clients even during these times, right? In a way that's going to work for you and that's going to work best for your customer base. So that's really important, is plan that out. Figure out what your communication strategy is now. Figure out how that's going to be individualized for each of your customers, and find out what's going on in their industry, right? That's how you can focus your support in the right way. And then certainly, we also want to make sure we are continuing to build our prospecting pipeline. The way we do that, though, today is going to be very different than perhaps how we did that over the last couple of months, and hopefully how we may do that moving forward. So when you are prospecting, think of a couple of things. One, how are you leveraging your social selling presence to really become a resource for your clients and your prospects? So this is the perfect time. If you haven't started to develop this already, think about how you are going to develop your social media presence. What will that look like for you as a sales professional? That may be at a certain level for your company, but then for you in your role, what will that look like? Are you leveraging platforms like LinkedIn to really demonstrate the expertise or the knowledge you have about your industry? Are you leveraging that platform to help you nurture and build connections with both your clients and potentially prospects that you want to continue to have conversations with? So this is the perfect time to actually start to develop that if you haven't done so. And if you've gotten a base going, if you've got a foundation of social selling, think about how you can take that to the next level. What strategies, what practices can you put in place to really elevate your presence on social media today? So first and foremost, when you're doing that, think about how that's shaping your personal brand. You are in your social media presence the information that you put out about yourself on LinkedIn or Facebook or any other platform that you use from a professional perspective is a reflection of who you are as a professional. So how does this reflect your personal brand, what you believe in, what you stand for, what's important to you? So really, take the time to review your LinkedIn profile as an example, and really look at information that's in there, right? Does that actually accurately reflect who I am as a professional? Have I updated some of the information about myself and my background? Have I updated perhaps my company's description to make it more relevant for today? So take some time to review what you currently have there and how you can make that reflective of who you are as a professional. And remember to build out that communication schedule. It's important to do that with your current customers. It's important to do that on social media as well. So how often are you adding to your posts? How often are you updating? How often do you reach out? So really think about how often you're sort of changing that information and adding to it. What posts are you putting out there? Are they one way where you're perhaps talking about changes in your industry or things that are going on within your business? Or are you actually, so that could be a one-way communication, or are you actually holding conversations? Is there an opportunity for you to have a two-way dialogue leveraging a social media platform? So, a lot of organizations now are using platforms like LinkedIn to have conversations, short webinars, engagements with their customers, posting questions that people are then responding to and building on. So think about how you can leverage social media in a different way right now to really connect with your clients and your prospects and your market, perhaps a little bit more than you have done in the past. This is a great opportunity to build rapport and provide value. So remember, the old rule, the 80-20 rule, 80% of what we post should be informative. It should be industry specific. It should be entertaining perhaps, right? But it should be something very educational or something that will help your clients or prospects learn more about their industry and the market that they're in. 20% should be more, promotional. So it's not about posting information about a new product or a new service that you have. It's really about how do you really focus sort of what you're posting around the knowledge or the intel that you can bring to the industry. That's going to help you build rapport, and that's going to provide value for your clients as well as prospects and others in the market that you want to connect to. And it really is about how you then connect with people who are engaging with you online to then perhaps move from online conversations to a phone call, a presentation, a virtual meeting. How do you do that well? Well, think about how you connect with people who have interacted with your posts. If you've got someone who's shared an article that you've posted, reach out to them, say thank you for sharing. Love to know why you shared it. What is it in particular that kind of resonated with you, right? Start a conversation, a dialogue. That's where those connections come from. So, this is the time to really start to build your social selling practice and to really think about how am I going to be doing this effectively today and how am I going to set myself up for the future. So from a prospecting perspective, this is a key and critical sort of issue that you need to be focused on, is what is your social selling strategy and what's your presence look like, and does that actually reflect who you are as a professional and who your organization is. In addition to making sure that that presence is reflecting who you are, take time right now to do some planning and research. If you're looking at who you're selling to, this is an opportunity to kind of reassess your goals, your plans, and your strategies. So if it's been a while since you've done a SWOT on your business, this might be the time, right? To actually go through what are our strengths? Where do we have potential weaknesses? Where is there opportunities in the market for my business, for the clients that I'm working with? And what are the potential threats that I may need to either mitigate or that I really need to understand in order to avoid them? So this could be the time to leverage some of these thinking tools to help you plan your account strategies and your overall business approach. And remember, that SWOT can be done looking at your own organization. It could be a SWOT of the market. It could be a SWOT of your customer. or your customers to really understand, again, what's driving their business and what's changed as a result of COVID-19 for them. This may also be an opportunity for you to take a step back and do a little bit of a competitive analysis, right? Who are the competitors in your market? What's the criteria that your clients would use to evaluate you against a competitor, right? So always taking that customer point of view, thinking from a customer-centric perspective. You know, what's important to them today, and how would they assess us against potentially our competition? And then rate yourself against your competitors. Really think about what will that scoring look like? Where do you have strength? Where do your competitors have weaknesses? And you'll see how the SWOT and that kind of competitive analysis can start working together to really give you a full picture of your market and your place in it. In addition, as you start to build out this intel and do this assessment of yourself, your market, and your competition, start to articulate what that value looks like. What is your competitive advantage? Script that, right? Take some time to actually write that down, document it. What is it that you do that's unique or different? What value do you provide to your customers today? Can you quantify that value, right? Can we look at it from a dollars perspective? Can we help our clients make money in a certain way? Can we help them save money? Do we help them avoid risk? Do we help them be more efficient? What does that look like? So start to build out some of those statements based on your research and on your assessment of the market. Look at where you have advantages over your competitors. Look at where you may be on par or have parity with your competition. And where do you have some disadvantages that you may either need to mitigate, overcome, or you need to really understand internally how to kind of continue to manage within that environment. So again, this is the time. Do your research, do your planning, reassess your strategies, and really figure out what are the actions you need to take to move those strategies forward. With that, go back and reassess your target market. Is it the same as it was? Has it changed? I'm working with one financial services company, and one of the things that they're providing to their clients is information around what's changed within their clients' businesses. So a lot of their clients are small companies, small businesses that sell to other small businesses. And as a result of what's going on now with COVID-19, with changes in the economy, their clients are really looking at the financial viability of their own customers. So they want to make sure that they are going to continue to get paid. They want to make sure that the credit worthiness of their customers is the same or hasn't changed from what was going on today till tomorrow. So they're working with their partner to really understand that. So their market is changing as a result. So think about, how is your market changing? How is your customer's market changing? Who are they selling to? Right? How has that changed? So take the time to do that planning. It's such a critical thing to do on an ongoing basis all the time. Now I think even more so. Because we really need to understand what changes have impacted our market, our customers, and what that means for us, right, in terms of the goals and objectives that we're setting for ourselves. So what do these things allow you to do? This planning is so critical because it allows you to reassess your own strategies. It allows you to then set or change or update your own goals and objectives. And from there, the actions you will take to reach those goals and objectives. And for those sales leaders or managers on the call as well, remember, these are conversations you need to be having with your teams now. Don't wait to see what happens, right, when the dust settles, when we come out of quarantine, when things start to pick up again. Now is the time to start talking to your teams about, how have your goals changed? How have your clients' goals changed? And how will that impact our ability to achieve the goals that we set out at the beginning potentially of the year? What are the things that we can do today to help to achieve these, to reassess those goals? And then what are the actions we can take to achieve these goals as we've set them? So take the time to discuss that with your teams. This should be an ongoing conversation, but now more than ever before, we got to have that goal conversation, right? We have to make sure we're focused on what are our targets, how are they've changed, what's going on with our customers' business, and how has that potentially changed where we are today and what we're looking to achieve. So don't shy away from those conversations. Make sure you're having them as a team. Really critical. There are lots of templates that the CPSA provides that can help you with this planning, from a SWOT analysis template to a competitive analysis, or to even creating your own unique value proposition statements, right? That can help you to script those and start to really evaluate where you have strengths, and being able to articulate what those strengths are. These are great templates. I really see them as thinking tools, right? They help you to really assess your business, your position, what you do well, and the value you bring to your clients. What I often say too is, sales is not something that we do with or do to our clients, it's something we do with them. So get feedback from your clients. As you're working through connecting with them and providing support, as you do your planning and your research, as you start to assess your own goals, co-create that with your clients. Ask them for feedback, right? This is what I'm working on today. Here's what I think my value is to your business. Did I get that right? Don't shy away from those conversations. Now is a great time to make sure you're confirming your value with your clients, to articulate what that value is, get their buy-in, and make sure they're in agreement, right? So you are locking arms with your clients and you're moving forward with them through this period of time. So use these templates as thinking tools, right? Really focus in on what's the value that you're providing to your clients today, and then get their buy-in, get their agreement, get their input on what that looks like. It's really going to help you to, again, demonstrate your support and really to start setting the stage for future growth with that client. Now, as you are preparing for prospecting, first thing you want to do is do your homework, right? So it's very important that as you are continuing to call prospects, as you continuing to look at how you reach out to potential clients within your market, now more than ever before, really make sure you're doing your homework. Think about, how are you going to demonstrate empathy, right? So have you prepared for your call? Have you actually done some research about what's going on within your client's business or your prospect's business? And how do you actually demonstrate, your support for them or what they're going through? So all of this is part of planning your prospecting call, right? So make sure you're planning it well and effectively. So think about, how will you demonstrate empathy? How will you demonstrate your knowledge of industry conditions? And that comes from the research that you've done on your client or your prospect, right? How are you going to articulate that to them in a way that really shows transparency and authenticity? Often I think I teach my sales reps, if they are calling their prospect, it's a great time to use their value proposition statements, but use them in a way that demonstrates humility, right? So it may be something like, this is how we have helped organizations like yours to increase profits, to save money, to enable their business to do what they couldn't do on their own. I don't know, this is the humility part, right? I don't know if we can help you. Would love to explore that with you. How does that sound? Right? So you're demonstrating that you've had expertise, you're demonstrating where you've been able to help before, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can apply all of that specifically to the prospect that's on the phone. That's something you want to explore together with them. That's something that you do together, right? To determine whether or not there's value in a potential relationship. So think about how you are going to position that with a prospect. Do you have references that you can provide to them? Can you name organizations? Have you gotten a referral from somebody else within your network? Leverage those references. It's a great way to set up your prospecting call. How do you demonstrate your confidence and expertise, right? Not just of your organization, but of yourself, right? How can you demonstrate the types of organizations that you work with, the years of experience you have? How will you articulate that to your prospect in a very short period of time, right? Prospecting calls aren't long, so how do we actually move that and be able to sort of articulate that message well? And then, as I said, how do you ensure transparency and authenticity, right? How can you ensure that you are being authentic? Can you be transparent about what's going on within your business right now? We're all working from home, we're all working virtually. Sometimes we've got to give ourselves a break, So if you're on a prospecting call and all of a sudden, your dog barks in the background, or you hear your kids, or your spouse says something that the prospect picks up on the call, you know what? Everybody's in that boat right now. So really make sure you're really talking to your prospect from that perspective. Give yourself a little bit of a break, give your prospect a break, and be open about what's happening for you right now, how you are able to sort of work and live sort of during this time, and what's impacting you. Okay, and make sure that when you are on a prospecting call that you're demonstrating what's in it for the person on the other end of the line. Right? Why is this call going to be beneficial for them? What value will they get out of a conversation with you? Are you able to actually plan that, script it to some extent, and then be able to articulate it well? Right? So what's the value that they'll get out of having this conversation with you? And if it is about learning, all the better. If it's about you learning about them and them learning about you, that can be a great value proposition. And then certainly think about how are you going to follow up, and make sure you're planning your follow-up appropriately. And then check in with your prospect to make sure they're in agreement with what that follow-up looks like. So if that's how we plan for prospecting, what are some key tips when you're actually on the phone with a prospect? What are some things that you need to think about? First and foremost, it's going to be a short call, so plan for that. Right, so all of the things that we just said, make sure you're thinking about how you're articulating. You've got a very short window of time to do that. So think about how you're going to do that effectively. And then prepare, right? I know sometimes I get pushback from reps that say, Kerri, when I'm prospecting, I have a script, but man, I don't want to sound scripted. Fully agree. And here's my piece of advice on that. Script to such an extent that you can practice so you don't sound scripted. Right? So you need to be able to write things down. You need to be able to take some notes. You need to be able to practice some of the things that you've written down and prepared that you want to say to your prospect to such an extent that it doesn't come off as scripted. However, you may not want to have every single word mapped out. You might want to have themes, specific key points that you want to raise with the prospect. And then be prepared to kind of flow in a different direction and go where the prospect wants to go in terms of where they want to lead the conversation. So prepare enough that you can take some of those twists and turns with your prospect, but can get out the really key points that you want to make sure you are able to demonstrate. And then perhaps most importantly, provide a customer-centric reason or context for your call. I think that is so critical. That's critical all the time. I think now more than ever before. What I'm often hearing from reps today is, Kerri, my client right now just doesn't want to be sold to. Well, you know what? Your clients never want to be sold to. They want you to be there as a support for them. They want you to solve their problem, not sell them something, right? That's really what this is all about. So now more than ever before, we need to make sure that we're demonstrating that focus. Right? That it's not about selling them something, it's about solving a problem, which means you have to provide a customer-focused reason for your call. You have to base the call on the research you've done on their industry, their business, what's going on for them, and make sure that you are connecting the dots between those. So that it really does come across as this will be a valuable call for your prospect. They'll learn something, you'll learn something, and you'll be able to move that conversation forward. And last point is, remember you are qualifying at this point, right? So your prospect may turn into a, someone that you can kind of continue to push through your pipeline, but it's about what's the goal of your call today. And your goal is not to try to get them to buy on right now. Your goal is to move them through the sales pipeline, to move them through the prospecting process. To do that, think about what's the goal of the call. The goal of the call may be to get another virtual appointment. It may be to connect with additional stakeholders within their business, right? To get them to introduce you to other key decision makers within their organization. The goal of the meeting may be for you to have set up another call to demonstrate, or provide more of a demo of your services or your solutions. So think about what the goal of the call is today and how that is going to help you to move this prospect through your funnel effectively. And then certainly every single time you talk to a prospect, make sure you're documenting that call. Keep a record, update your CRM, create a log of contacts, and not just so you have that information that you can refer back to when you follow up, but also so if you have an extended team that you work with, so they are up to date on who you've called, why you've called, and what took place within that call, right? So that record is really important. And then finally, we've talked about things you can do to support your clients. We've talked about some prospecting best practices during these times, how important it is to do your research, do your planning, and really focus on reassessing the goals and objectives that you have, and some specific things to think about that when you are actually picking up that phone, how do you have those calls effectively right now, and what are some of the key points to consider? In addition, I also want you to think about how can you stay motivated, how can you stay focused during these times, right, during these days, and what is that going to look like for you? In some ways, we need to give ourselves a little bit of a break, right? So we know that we are, as terms keep coming out from the media, this is the new normal, it's a new way of acting, a new way of being, a new way of having to try to be productive. We are never going to be productive right now as we were potentially prior to COVID-19. So we need to make sure we're giving ourselves a little bit of a break and really trying to figure out how are we going to operate in this new environment, and what's that going to look like for us, especially if you're on that one extreme of kind of being in a little bit of a holding pattern with your clients, right? So you really got to think about, how am I going to stay productive? How am I going to stay focused? And part of that focus is by reassessing your goals, doing your homework, doing research, right? To really make sure that you are planning as appropriately as possible for what your clients require and for what you as a business requires. So think about how you can stay focused and motivated. One way to do that is to prioritize. We all know this is important to do, but now more than ever before, right? Take a moment every day, assess what's on your priority list. What's most important, right? What's got high priority, perhaps a medium priority or a low priority. Connections with your customers should be a high priority. That should be the key thing you do each and every day, and really focus in on how you're going to plan that out, right? So really think about where those priorities sit. And for the sales leaders on the call, really make sure you're talking with your teams about their priorities and help them to prioritize where they need that help. So making sure that regular team meetings are a priority is key. Making sure that you've got regular communication with your internal teams, that should be a priority, right? Regular coaching and dialogue with individual sales team members is also a priority. So really think about sort of where you're focusing your time and energy right now. And certainly, regardless of what extreme you're on, what extreme you're in, whether it's that holding pattern where nothing seems to be moving, or working crazy busy because of the industry that you're in, stress is going to be a factor, and you really need to figure out how are you managing stress effectively. Remember, there's two types of stress, right? Good stress pushes us. Good stress enables us to move forward. It enables us to kind of be more productive. Bad stress gets in the way. Bad stress stops us from moving forward. Bad stress stops us from being as productive as we can be. And often, whether or not stress is good or bad has to do with our perspective, what we say to ourselves about what's going on in our life. So what is that self-talk? What is it that you are saying to yourself right now about the work you're doing, about the goals you are either reaching or not reaching, right? About the objectives that you have set and how close you are to achieving those objectives. So make sure you are really checking in with yourself, and talk with your leader, your coworkers about what's going on for you. Where is stress going to help motivate the team, and where is stress going to demotivate, and have those conversations internally. And then certainly on your own, there's things you can do to help manage sort of that negative self-talk, mitigate stress, and really check on your attitude and where your focus is. So as I said, be aware of what it is you're saying to yourself. What's positive and negative in that? Develop techniques for dealing with difficult situations. If you are having difficulty staying productive because of what's going on around you, because family members are home, because you've got to help your kids, with schoolwork during the day, be creative. Come up with different ways that you can tackle what you have to tackle, those high priority issues or activities. What else is high priority is family issues, right? So make sure you are taking the time to be there for your family, and make sure you're taking the time to take care of yourself in that process. So it may mean coming up with new and creative ways to kind of manage your schedule. It may mean coming up with new and creative ways as a team, as a sales team, to connect. It may mean coming up with new and creative ways to make sure that we're keeping our organization informed of what's going on with our clients. So as a team, talk about what those ways may be, and think about what you can do perhaps differently to manage in these times. Planning is critical, and really think about, how do I continue to be positive in this environment, right? How do I actually place myself in a sort of a positive environment and keep myself going in that regard? So in summary, just a couple of things to think about. One, focus on your current clients from a place of support. How can you actually demonstrate that support to them on a regular basis? And this should be planned. This is part of your overall communication strategy. Develop this with your clients, right? Reach out and ask them for feedback on how best you can connect. What is that frequency of communication going to be? What's the focus of that discussion? What's top of mind for them? And how can you continue to be there as a support throughout the next couple of days, weeks, and months as we continue to sort of move through this time? Build and maintain a healthy pipeline. Just being sensitive to the current sales climate for sure. But part of building and maintaining that pipeline and continuing to work on your prospecting activities is the planning and research that you do. Think about how you are building, maintaining, or elevating your social media presence. How are you focusing in on the issues, the concerns that matter most for your clients and your market today? How can you continue to demonstrate your expertise in that market through social media? And how are you leveraging social media to continue to make connections and relationships with your customers and with potential prospects that you want to connect with? In addition, think about how you're prospecting today. How are you planning for those phone calls? Who are you calling? When? And what preparation are you putting into place to make sure that those calls, those conversations are as effective as possible? And then certainly in these times, make sure you're taking care of yourself. And as a sales leader, take care of your sales team. Really think about, what is the regular communication that we can have as a team? And make sure you're not just focusing on what they're working on, but how they're working. And more importantly, connect in on them as well. Show empathy, show support, and really make sure you're supporting your team just as much as your team is supporting your clients, right? And really talk about ways and strategies that they can do that well, so that you can leverage, something that's working well for one team member, someone else can use that strategy too. So that's all part of ensuring that right now, in these crazy times, as sales professionals, we are doing what we can to take care of our clients, take care of our teams, and take care of ourselves. I'm going to pause there. Any questions from anyone on the call? And certainly you can submit those questions through chat as well.
Thank you so much, Kerri. We do already have a few questions. First and foremost, we have a couple of people who have asked about whether or not they'd be receiving the presentation afterwards. Yes, for all of you, this webinar has been recorded, so we will be sending it to attendees after the webinar has taken place. We have a couple of questions about timing, Kerri. So the first one here is, when is too early to start selling again? My clients have been shut down by the government for 2 months and have had zero revenue.
Yeah, what a great question. And certainly it's come up from many reps, many businesses, as they start figuring out what is that right timing look like. And here's what I would say. I don't think there's ever and this might be controversial, but we'll throw it out there. I don't think it's ever a good time to be selling, right? I think honestly, what our focus needs to be is solving our clients' problems, and that really hasn't changed. So how can you continue to do that? Which means we have to look and understand, like we have to look for where are those problems within our client's business, and we have to understand what's changed for their business from what it was like, pre-COVID-19 to what it is today. And then certainly if you do have clients that are fully shut down and no one is working, then obviously you have to wait until there are people there that you can connect and access. But I would highly recommend right now, continue to build out your knowledge of your clients and what has changed for them. And that is what I'd reach out to them with, right? So I don't think there is ever a good time to start selling again. I honestly believe it's about fully understanding the customer's business, the industry they're operating in, and being able to then speak to those issues. And if there's a way that you can help to manage or help your client mitigate those issues, that's what you're there to do, right? That's the part where you can solve sort of their issues or their concerns. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Kerri. The next questions are on social selling. So how can one utilize social selling if they are concerned with privacy issues?
Yeah, I always want to ensure that you are checking in with your organization on what their social selling policies are. So, some organizations really encourage sales professionals to create, maintain, and update their own content on social media. Other times they have more, strict policies on the types of content that you can create. And making sure that it really does fall along with the organization's strategy, their communication strategy. So I would check in with your organization to make sure you're in line with those policies. From a privacy perspective, part of selling involves connecting in with prospects. Social media is a great way to do that because if they've engaged with you, then you have the ability to engage with them. Where privacy perhaps comes into play is if we are sending out unsolicited email information to our clients, and that goes against Canadian privacy laws. So you always want to make sure you are checking in with your organization on what practices you have in place, what you can do and what you can't do, and make sure that whatever practices you're looking to employ are in line with your company.
Thank you, Kerri. So the next one is, when you talk about understanding your customers' issues, is it acceptable to outright ask, what are your biggest concerns or problems that you're facing?
Sorry, can you just say that question again? You just cut out for a moment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So when you talk about
sure.
understanding your customers' issues, is it acceptable to outright ask, what are your biggest concerns or problems that you're facing?
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on, and of course, it depends on the relationship you have with your client. How close are you in terms of, how do you regularly connect with them? What does that relationship look like? Instead of actually asking some very generic questions like, what are your issues? Or, the one that I hear often that is not a very effective question is that what's keeping you up at night right now? Something like that. I would shy away from some of those general questions and actually ask a question that's based more on the research or your understanding of their business. So it may look like something like, as a small business owner, my understanding is that, many of my clients who have small businesses are dealing with this issue, right? They're really focused in on whether or not their customers are going to be able to pay their bills. Is that something that you're focused on? Is that an issue for you? And if so, how is that impacting you? Right? So I would always try to find more targeted questions, more targeted things that will help you to uncover the issues or concerns that your clients are having right now. And then get curious, double click on their responses. So double click, think of a website, right? You go into one section of the website, there's a link where you can double click and go to further deeper into the website. Do the same with your clients, right? Based on the response they give you, double click on that response. How is that impacting their business? So what is that issue issue really look like for them? For their team, what's the impact? For them professionally, what's the impact? Can they quantify what that impact is? So I get really curious about that issue and really focus in on what are some of those good key questions that you can ask that will help you to dive deep into the issue and the impact that it's having on your client.
Thank you, Kerri. I think the next question is someone more so seeking advice, but I think that a lot of people might be able to relate to this. So I'm terrible
Yeah,
at
great.
planning. I don't like doing planning and research. I'm best in front of someone. How do I adjust to a virtual world?
Oh gosh, what a great question. So, yeah, there's so many good things out there right now. A lot of uh, coaches, sales professionals, other individuals have posted on LinkedIn, on other platforms, how to leverage things like WebEx or other forms of platforms like this to connect with your clients today. And what are some best practices to think about as you do that well? So I would do some research on that, right? Really look up what are some of the things, some practices, some techniques that will help me to effectively use some of the tools so I can actually see my client. And I love the comment that, I'm best in front of my client. So continue to be in front of them, right? Share video. Think about how you are talking to your client. Think about how you are demonstrating your empathy in the words you say and the language you use. So, being in front of this is as much as being in front of your client as you are when you're physically in front of them, right? So leverage the tools that you've got to do that well.
Thank you, Kerri. I think
I
our
hope
last
that's helpful.
is, do you suggest prospecting brand new prospects that you've never met, or to right now follow up with prospects that you've already reached out to?
So the question is this the right time to do that? Is that
What do you suggest for right now, prospecting for brand new prospects, or for following up to prospects that you've already reached out to?
Yeah, so for both scenarios, again, I go back to, what's the customer issue that you want to be following up on? What's the trend that you're seeing in the industry? How can you leverage that trend to start a conversation with a brand new connection or to continue a conversation and demonstrate your value to a client? And I'm thinking of a coaching session that I had earlier in the week with a sales rep that I work with. And what I love about her approach is that she was very focused on, this is what I see happening in your industry. Here's where I can help. I may not be able to help now, but this might be help that you'll need 3 months from now. So how can we kind of, transition from where we are today to what that's going to look like within 3 months? So she was very focused in on the industry conditions, the industry, and the environment in which her customer or her prospect is operating in, and then using that knowledge to really start the conversations that she's having with her prospects. And what I love about that approach is it differentiates you, right? So that way you are differentiated from your competition. If your competitor is calling prospects and saying, how are you doing? Or here's something I can sell to you, or what are some of the, or asking what are some of the issues that are keeping you up at night. By having a very targeted conversation, by focusing on an issue that she's seeing as a trend across the market, and by being able to ask specifically, how is that prospect responding to that trend? It becomes a very targeted conversation. So regardless of whether or not this is a brand new contact you're looking to connect with or a follow-up conversation that you're having with a prospect, be targeted. Focus in on what they care about based on your knowledge and the research you've done on the industry. I think that's what's going to be critical right now, is to really demonstrate your understanding of your customers, your prospects' business, right? That's what differentiates you. Hope that was helpful for that question.
Thank you, Kerri. And then I think we have time for just one more. So
Okay.
customers are currently wearing multiple hats due to staffing shortages. What is the best way to secure meetings with someone who doesn't have the time in the day for a structured virtual meeting?
Yeah, I would absolutely reach out to my client and co-create that with them, right? And so it may sound something like this, right? My goal is to connect with my clients on a regular basis. I want to make sure that I'm discussing kind of changes in their business and then being able to be there for them. What will that look like for you? Recognizing what's going on in your business today, you're wearing many hats. I fully understand that you're being pulled in different directions. What kind of communication should we put in place between us, right? How frequently should we be connecting? So I would really actually have that conversation with your client. And if they say, you know what, right now, this isn't the time, follow up with me in a couple of weeks. Absolutely, that sounds great. When, then secure it. When can I follow up? What will that look like? So you need to get direction from your client on what that communication strategy will look like, but co-create it with them. Don't just ask them, when can I talk to you? Really make sure that you are developing a communication strategy and they understand why you're reaching out, you understand why you're reaching out, and the timing and the frequency is committed to by both parties.
Thank you so much, Kerri.
Great question.
So much to everyone who was involved in the Q&A session. We do have some upcoming webinars. Maybe Kerri, you can speak to virtual training in the upcoming webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of the webinars that are up and coming, April 30th, we have a webinar on better sales forecasting, how to inspect, assess, and coach to win bigger deals. Very timely session as we start to reassess goals, targets, and look at some of the forecasting sort of objectives and metrics that we're putting into place for the rest of the year. On May 27th, we're doing a session on virtual training. We're doing a virtual training session on key considerations of coaching, and we're going to talk about the 5 whys, how to actually put some best practice coaching into place. And then we also have a session on June 11th that really talks about the top cybersecurity mistakes sales professionals make while working remotely. Highly recommend this session. Is there anything else you wanted to add about this session in particular?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Kerri. So this webinar is also going to be hosted in partnership with BrokerLink Insurance. Like Kerri said, it is on June 11th. And in this webinar, we will get a detailed overview on the types of cybersecurity risks, specifically for salespeople that we are encountering while we work remotely, and how to prepare yourself and your team. And to access all of these webinars, including the ones that Kerri has just gone over in the virtual training, please feel free to visit our calendar of events at cpsa.com/calendar to register. And once again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. And thank you so much, first and foremost, to Kerri for facilitating such a wonderful webinar that I know will help us both professionally and personally. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for everybody to be on the call. Thank you, CPSA, for hosting. Everybody, take care of yourselves, take care of your clients, and stay safe.
Stay safe,
Thanks
everyone,
so much.
and have a great day.